cannot have parents in Resident Evil. If anything, you can't have a family. You cannot have parents. Siblings, you can barely have siblings. Nah, you can't have shit in Resident Evil. We're gonna start with Leon S. Kennedy. Now, he has gone through a shit ton of trauma, even starting in his childhood. I do have his wiki pulled up. I remembered this, but I don't know if a lot of people know this. His parents were killed very early on, and he ended up in an orphanage. Already at like the jump of childhood, he was traumatized. And then he gets a job with the police department, and his first day at the police department is the fucking Raccoon City incident and everything going to shit. So that's another, as going into young adulthood, trauma. Leon, like, gets close with Krauser, kind of befriends the dude, and then he goes into Resident Evil 4 and he has to kill Krauser. And then Ada, that's another thing of, like, relationship trauma. We don't know anything about if Leon's, like, had any other relationships. He's, from as far as we know, he's just been hung up on Ada for, like, 10 years. Like, this dude has familial trauma, friend, colleague trauma, relationship trauma, like, all of the above. And then in 6, he has to kill the president. Yeah, it's not, okay, that's what I thought. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's not the same president from Resident Evil 4. But he was still friends with this new president. So he has to kill him. So that's just adding on to more trauma. And then Chris is trying to kill his not girlfriend situationship. So he's like, dude, what the fuck? So Leon, despite all of this trauma, Leon definitely goes up here on, like, the trauma scale. However, this man seems so well adjusted. Like, he's always cracking jokes. He's always saying witty things. This dude seems fine. Like, there has never been an indication where he's, like, just breaking down, having a moment. It's kind of unhealthy how, like, sane he is after going through all this. But, like, do I think he needs therapy? Not really. Because he's fine. Like, legitimately going through all the events that he's gone through, he's like, chill. It's like, how, dude? I think I would put him, like, towards here. Because he just doesn't really show any signs. Like, the way he deals with his trauma is just like, damn it. Like, he doesn't really take it out on anyone. He just keeps yearning for Ada. Like, he doesn't, apparently, he's not bringing this past Ada trauma into other relationships. I don't know if he's just, like, internalizing it, or if he just lets out the trauma by telling jokes. But I would say Leon is, like, very traumatized, but doesn't need therapy. I think I'm gonna go down to Rose next. Rose absolutely is traumatized as well. Oh, Rose definitely needs therapy. It's how much does she need therapy? If I'm not mistaken, after what happens to Ethan, Mia kind of just checks out. Let's see. If I'm remembering correctly, Chris was, like, her basic parental figure, which that's a healthy way to deal with trauma. On the aftermath incident, Rose was placed in protective custody by the U.S. government. As a superhuman, she both represented a direct security risk to the United States and could be valuable as a tool for international bioweapon developers. Rose was raised by Mia for a time and saw regular checkups from Redfield and his comrades who she saw as extended family. Despite her nature, Rose was allowed a regular education, was enrolled in elementary school. Yeah, Daddy Chris. Yeah, she got bullied all the time. And she constantly had, like, federal agents around her. And then she has to go through the events of the DLC. So, Rose has just gone through it. Absolutely familial trauma. Her dad dies when she's a baby. Mia is just checked out as a mother. Chris is, like, her family. She's basically a bioweapon. She gets bullied all the time. No, Rose, I don't think she has as much trauma. Yeah, she gets kidnapped. Like, I feel like she has kind of as much trauma as Leon. I mean, she doesn't have any, relationship trauma yet. She hasn't discovered a love interest she hasn't discovered her first baddie to yearn for and then find no one else for 10 years. But still, like, that superhuman thing, I feel like that's a different sort of trauma. So I want to say she has a shit ton of trauma. She genuinely doesn't have anyone to talk to. And Chris doesn't count. Like, she needs someone to talk to. She has no one. She's still, like, somehow an okay person. Like, I love Rose as a character. And I think she's an okay person. She just has had the world shit on her. So I'd say she's not the most needs therapy. Definitely a lot of trauma. Definitely needs therapy. Sheva Alomar grew up at a time of regional instability in West Africa as Soviet-backed paramilitary forces gave way to quasi-nationalist guerrilla warfare, kept safe from the troubles, more rural areas. The family lived in a relatively prosperous company town, so childhood seemed okay-ish. Oh, never mind. Health quickly deteriorated due to malnutrition, made worse by umbrella. So, yeah, malnutrition, that's kind of traumatizing. This is hard. Because there genuinely isn't that much about Sheva, especially after. As in, it seems like she's fine in her career with the BSAA. Kind of a rough upbringing. But once she got into her career, it seemed fine. She went to college. So, I'm gonna put... has a bit of trauma from childhood. I'll say that. I don't really think she needs therapy. I mean, she might need a little bit for, like, some of the shit she sees in combat. I feel like out of everyone here, I think Sheva is going to be the most neutral to the compass here. Just purely because I don't have all the information. The childhood stuff seems to be the most traumatic thing, and like, yeah, everyone's gonna have combat trauma here. I'll put her right here, right there. Jill. Ooh, Jill. I don't think anything bad happened in Jill's childhood. Jill seems like the type of person that actually goes to therapy. Served in the United States Army. Oh, yeah, that's trauma. Never mind. Created by Albert Wesker. I mean, Albert Wesker's betrayal, that could be a little bit traumatic. The mansion, that's probably some trauma. The whole out the window thing with Wesker in Resident Evil 5, I would say so. Getting infected by the T-virus. Okay, Jill is getting more traumatic as I'm thinking here. I was not adding all of these up in my head. I don't know how I was not adding all this. Oh yeah, Resident Evil Revelations. Had to deal with that as well. I feel like she doesn't need therapy. I haven't seen her, like, pop off on anyone. Except for Carlos, because Carlos can be a little bit of an idiot. Has quite a bit I'm trying to think if she has the same amount of trauma as Leon, or just slightly less. Because I feel like they've gone through a similar amount of things. Just a little bit less for Jill, but like I said, the whole Wesker controlling thing, I feel like that's pretty big. So, you know what, I'm gonna put her at the same level as Leon and Rose, but doesn't really need therapy. Because I feel like, genuinely, like I said, I feel like out of everyone here, her and Claire, like, go to therapy together. I feel like those two would probably go to therapy together. I feel like Jill could definitely benefit from... I'll move her over a little bit more, because she could benefit going to therapy if she isn't already. That's where I'll put it. Like, with the mindset of they're not currently in therapy if they should start going. And I think Jill would definitely benefit at least a little bit of therapy. Just to, like, talk about some shit, you know? Yeah, where's the Raccoon City therapy? You'd make a killing being a therapist for everyone who's lived in Raccoon City or worked for the BSAA. Carlos. I think he had childhood trauma, if I'm not mistaken. He's another person who kind of uses humor to get through his shit. Fierce paramilitary and street violence. Yeah, that's what I thought. 5 of 7 brothers. 2 have been killed. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. Gang violence at the age of 7. I think my man's crawling up the trauma tier list. Post-reconstruction. After the events in Raccoon City, Olivera and Valentine went to a hotel bar. I didn't know about this. Hold on. Somewhere on the coast of the United States and had a drink before saying goodbye. Later, Olivera escaped the U.S. via Mexico, and he returned to South America to reside there. He continued to harbor anger towards Umbrella. He may have undergone plastic surgery to avoid being recognized by Umbrella. Did not know any of that. Don't mess up your beautiful face, Carlos. Ooh, Carlos had a lot of childhood trauma, but he keeps to himself well. He flirty. I guess slightly above Sheva, definitely under Jill for everything that happened in his childhood, and of course, what happens in Resident Evil 3 where he thinks Jill is dying, and you know, he had to go through all that. Don't think it's nearly as much trauma as these 3. And I don't really think he needs that much therapy. I think he's just chill, talking to someone, and he's a-okay. Could he benefit a little bit from it? Probably, but like, I don't think he... I'll move him a little bit over. I don't think he needs it. He's not a toxic dude. He's flirty, he's fun. I really like Carlos. Helena Harper. Oh boy, here we go. Everyone is traumatized. Helena definitely is gonna go up there somewhere because of her whole sister. As opposed to like... Oh wait, no, half just exists. What am I saying? Yeah, her whole ass sister. Little is known of Helena Harper's childhood, though by the time she reached adulthood, her parents were dead and her younger sister, Deborah, was her only remain. Climbing up the trauma ladder. Deborah was her only family. Okay. Managed to get a career in the CIA, but is known to have been chaotic. And she became notorious within the agency for repeated cases of misconduct. In one incident, she assaulted the suspect of a serial murder investigation when he made crass remarks in front of a victim's family. In another, she shot her sister's ex-boyfriend after he assaulted her in the breakup. Can we get a round of applause for the best big sister of all time? That's badass shit. I didn't know she did that. That's badass as hell. Let her. As he was unarmed at the time. Fuck that! An inquiry ruled against her. The CIA made plans to fire her, but this was changed to a secondment to the Secret Service with the possibility of a permanent transfer to the Division of Security Operations. And then, yeah, her sister dies. We kind of have to kill her because of the virus. I'm gonna argue that Helena definitely needs therapy after all the shit she does in the CIA that I was unaware of. That sounds like she has some pent-up anger issues, no matter how badass it is. She probably needs to see a therapist for it. So I'm gonna move her about there. That seems about right. Family dying, that's traumatic. Having to kill her sister, I'm gonna bump her up to where Carlos is. That's also pretty traumatic. So I think that's fair for Helena, that she needs it. Needs that therapy to, like, work out some of the anger issues. Family trauma, just really a theme here. Oh, man. As we were saying, how do I put him? I'm gonna put him at the very top corner. Chris would absolutely, if someone told Chris to get therapy, he would get better help therapy and then just never use it. Chris has so much goddamn trauma from getting his entire team killed, the shit with Jill, the whole... everything with Wesker. Man does not cope well at all with Piers dying. Look, I don't even... And then, like, he's an orphan in his childhood, if I'm not mistaken. Not much is known about Redfield's early life, except that he and his sister Claire had lost their parents at some point before 1998, having only each other as family. Went to the Air Force? Yep. I think this is so justified to put him at most parents dying... You cannot have parents in Resident Evil. If anything, you can't have a family. You cannot have parents. Siblings, you can barely have siblings. Nah, you can't have shit in Resident Evil. Does Chris need therapy? Out of everyone here, this man needs so much therapy. Oh my god, does he need therapy. The way he acts in 6 alone just shows that he is not okay. He's an alcoholic. He needs to talk to someone. He genuinely, out of everyone here, I don't think he needs therapy the absolute most. Someone talk to this man. Someone invite him bowling. Something. This man needs help. No, just keep giving him a gun. Tell him to go steal a baby. Give him a hug. Give him anything. Shit. This man is so traumatized. And they keep putting him in things to traumatize him further. I mean, I guess he kind of... Maybe his therapy is raising Rose a little bit when she starts to grow up. So maybe he mellows out a little bit there, but Mr. Redfield, you need to seek a therapist. Sherry! We all know what happens to Sherry's parents in Resident Evil 2. Elle just took a whole ass L during the Raccoon City incident. Because that was her entire family. She met Claire, though. Meeting Claire is a good thing. I don't think she needs therapy, though. Like, she seems fine. She doesn't seem to have too much combat trauma. She has that situationship with Jake. Her parents were shitty people anyway, so... It wasn't like she lost a loving family. If that makes it any better. I'll leave her there. You know what? I might move her down a little bit more. We'll do that. We'll do that. I think that's fair. Losing your family is very traumatizing, but she met Claire, has a situationship. It has to deal with Chris, though, in Resident Evil 6. That's a no. That's a whole ass L. Years! Raised into a multi-generational military family, going back to his great-grandfather, the firstborn son, Nivans, made joining the U.S. Army his life goal throughout his childhood. Oh, Lord. Oh, Lord. Nivans qualified for Army Special Forces training where he developed his skills as a sniper. However, during his training, he began to question his purpose in the Army. He is dead, so he can't really need therapy for being dead. But if he wasn't dead, yeah, he did go into the Army. But he wanted to do that, and, like, he was excited to do all that, even though he started to question himself. He seemed to have a fun time with Chris. He did have to become like a bioweapon thing, but he wanted to save Chris. He has a family. That I feel like that's a step in the right direction for Resident Evil characters. So I think no one's gonna complain leaving him here. Moving over to Claire's side. Well, she has the same parental trauma as Chris. Went to Raccoon to find Chris and did not find him. Did Code Veronica, but I can't speak too much on it because I never played it. But Steve's death, that's kind of traumatizing. But Claire is so well adjusted. Again, I feel like her and Jill just go to weekly therapy already. I'm trying to think of, like, do I put her at the same level as Leon or just slightly below? She does have that childhood trauma. Raccoon incident trauma. Steve-ish trauma. She seemed to be doing shit she wanted to do. So, I'm gonna put her slightly below Leon and Jill. And I'm gonna say she doesn't need therapy. She's not as chill as Leon. I think she could still talk to someone if she wanted to, but she doesn't desperately need it. She's pretty well adjusted. Especially how she deals with Sherry. I'm gonna leave her there. I think that's fair. Barry. Burton's career began in 1983 when he joined the U.S. Air Force. Everyone joined the Air Force or the Army. Can't just be on the Coast Guard or something. In 1983, when he joined the U.S. Air Force, serving in the same unit as Chris Redfield, with whom he became good friends. After completing his service, he joined a certain police department's SWAT team, where his mentor in law enforcement was Marini. During the time, he and his loving wife, I love how they had to put loving wife Kathy, had 2 daughters named Moira and Polly. Didn't Wesker, like, take his family hostage or something? Or he threatened to take them hostage? I think he threatened to take them hostage. At some point after this, one day, Burton forgot to lock his guns up. M1911 handgun was found by his daughters while they were playing, and Moira accidentally shot Polly! Holy shit! He rushed them after hearing the shot and shouted at Moira despite knowing it was his own fault. Polly survived. The incident deeply traumatized Moira. Damn, if only I'd play Revelations 2, she would have to be at the top of the tier list. Traumatized Moira and gave her an ingrained fear of firearms, leading to a strained and hostile relationship between them. Man. Oh my god. Maybe Barry's more traumatized than I thought. Barry returns to be a good father to his children. Yeah, Barry, I think you're gonna need that therapy. You're pretty traumatized. Daughter getting shot? I think you need to talk to someone. I think you kind of need to talk to someone, Barry. You definitely need therapy, Barry. I didn't know it was this bad. I had no idea it was this bad, Barry. Ooh, eesh. You need to talk to someone about your daughter getting shot. All this military stuff you kept getting involved in. Your strained relationship with your daughter for years, but seems fine now. Yeah, at least Jill didn't become a Jill sandwich. He did prevent that trauma. It would have been very traumatic if Jill turned into a Jill sandwich. Yeah, I didn't think Barry was going to be the second most that needed therapy here, but... Luis! Dr. Serra was born and raised in Valdelobos, a devoutly Catholic village located within the sparsely populated mountainous region. The same name in Spain, the population there were traditionalist Luddite isolationists. Jesus, that's a sentence and a half. Who had shunned most modern technology in favor of a pre-industrial lifestyle. His mother died in childbirth. Oh, Luis! Continuing the you cannot have a family in Resident Evil. His mother died in childbirth, leaving him to be raised by his grandfather, who hunted in the woodlands in the valley. What about his dad? Out of the picture, I guess. In his adolescence, Sarah's grandfather was attacked by Can't have shit. While hunting, the old man managed to make it back to the family cabin, but had become infected with an unknown illness as a result of the attack, and his condition would only further deteriorate, leaving rumors of madness spreading amongst the villagers. The word of the grandfather's strange illness soon reached the then current village chieftain, who confided in Mendez to prevent the infection from spreading. Thus, one night, while Serra was out of the house, he would return to find his family's cabin set ablaze with his grandfather lost to the flames. Mendez would write that the entire village had gathered to watch it in shock and terror, yet even after the last ember had been extinguished, the young Serra still looked on without a word, not moving a muscle until dawn, after which he disappeared from the village. At this point, they all need it. Like, none of them have families. Like, legitimately, how do you just keep messing up their like, at this point, you need to not have a family to join the BSAA or Umbrella. You just can't have one. You can't have one. Luis is a chill dude. But that level of family trauma of mother dying in childbirth, nothing about your dad, grandfather being set ablaze, having a whole hystericalness. I think you need to talk to someone about that, dude. Just a little bit. Very traumatic. But I think you need to talk to someone. I don't think you can just let that happen and just let it sit and simmer. I think at some point that's gonna just bubble to the surface. Yeah, Piers, you're looking the best over here, buddy. Ada! Ooh, boy, Ada. Okay. Wong's personal life is a complete mystery. Her ethnicity and nationality were left unconfirmed, and when and where she was born is also unknown, not to mention her birth name. According to one account by Wong herself, she was born around 1974 to a wealthy Chinese-Vietnamese family in Saigon in the final months of the Vietnam War. In the aftermath of the fall of Saigon, persecution of Hoa became commonplace due to the class division. When she was 3 years old, Wong's family sold off what remained of their assets to human traffickers in order to escape to the United States. But they were ultimately cheated and arrived with no money to survive on. However, the validity of this account is questionable, as Wong would later remark on this story as being fabricated to test Leon S. Kennedy's gullibility. That's a big question mark. She probably has fun messing with Leon all these years, let's be honest. She needs therapy, but she's not as traumatized because it's unknown. Like, I don't... The stuff with her family, if true, that's a little bit traumatizing. But it seems to be fabricated, so... I'm gonna say she definitely needs to talk to someone, because she is a bad bitch, but I don't know. Like, I'm gonna put her at the same level as Piers, trauma-wise, because something probably happened for her to go down the crime route, or maybe she's just doing it for funsies. She's a bad bitch. But, girl, you need to talk to someone about like, all these crimes you're committing. I don't think it's healthy to keep all that in. At least your situationship with Leon. Maybe you need to talk to someone about that. Even the bad bitches need therapy. You know what she needs? She needs couples therapy with Leon. That's the therapy that Ada needs. She needs couples therapy with Leon. I think that's perfectly fine thing to say. Her and Leon need to work out that situationship. Couples therapy counts as therapy. So I think that's fine to put her there. Ooh, Ashley. Ashley. President's daughter. In autumn 2004, Graham was abducted by Jack Krauser while on her way home from college. The operation was carefully coordinated. Okay, what about before that? She probably had a pretty lavish life before it. And then probably fine after it. Is it traumatizing to get kidnapped? Yeah. But that's pretty much it. She got saved. And by someone she found attractive. She needs a bit of therapy after that, but I don't think I'm gonna put her, like, at the very... I'll put her there. I think she definitely needs to talk to someone about this incident and, like, all that happened, but... I mean, her family's alive. She still has her president dad. The bar that we're setting here. I think that's fair. I think out of everyone's backstory... Ashley has one of the lesser traumatic ones. Yes, she got kidnapped, but she was fine. She was saved. She was okay. Even flirted with Leon saving her. But she could talk about it. I think she could talk about it. That's perfectly fine. I'll move her over a little bit more. Yeah, that's fine. I think that's okay. Ooh, Jake. I have a feeling Jake is gonna go above. Being the son of Wesker, that's already red flag trauma. Muller was born in a single-parent household in Adonia. Muller's mother returned to her home country pregnant, having broken up with her partner, Dr. Albert Wesker, then an Umbrella intelligence agent, who was unaware of his son, as she still loved him. Muller was raised to respect his father, who he privately considered a deadbeat. When his mother fell ill sometime in the early 2000s, they fell into... I don't even know what this word is. Seeking means to support her, Muller entered the work as a mercenary, possibly starting with the Adonian Liberation Army 2007. Yeah, having a deadbeat dad that wants to destroy the world, that's traumatizing. Your mom having sickness, being poor. While Jake is more interested in helping people, he still maintains a mercenary image. He probably should talk to someone about his whole familial trauma. I don't think he's as traumatized because he didn't know Wesker. And he seems to, like, adjust his life without talking to a therapist. Sherry kind of gave him that situationship therapy. He seems to turn his life around. He seems fine. But he should talk to someone. Wesker, his dad. Alright. Little is known of Wesker's childhood, even his real name. It is understood that he inherited advantageous genes relating to intelligence from his parent. Oh, how traumatizing. Taken from his parents at a young age by agents of Dr. Oswell E. Spencer, Earl Spencer, he was raised in one of perhaps several homes funded by the Spencer Foundation. This was to serve as the first stage of a eugenics... Okay, never mind. Alright, never mind. Which sought to raise a group of like-minded, gifted intellectuals who could in future be infected with a stabilized variant of the progenitor virus, entrusted with its superhuman effects. The children, all named Wesker after the project leader, were raised to share Spencer's values, harboring particular disdain for war and pestilence, believing humans to be an evolutionary dead end in need of order. Okay. Well, you know, he could have just, like, rebelled. No, I'm just kidding. Therapy can't even save this man, dude. He probably needs all of the therapy. I feel like he just wouldn't listen to a therapist. I'm gonna put him at needs therapy, but not as traumatized. Yes, he was taken from his family into like some culty ass organization, but he was like, nah, let me keep going along with this though. So I'm gonna put him below the line of most trauma. Maybe therapy would have prevented him from being a massive villain to the entire world trying to destroy it. You know? Ethan! I feel like you need marriage counseling, you need family counseling. Ooh, it's hard because Ethan is like such a question mark. He definitely goes through a lot of shit. That's not even a question. You know what? I'm gonna kind of put him towards like the same level as Chris. But not for the same reasons. It's just like what he goes through in the games themselves. Like his arms constantly being cut off. The fucking has to save his daughter. His whole marriage and that whole family thing. I'm gonna put him more towards Chris. Like this two peas in a pod over here. I think that's completely fair to Ethan. On to his wife. Like I said, I know my chat is the biggest fan base of Mia Winters. There's no character that y'all like more than Mia Winters. Mia was a resident of Texas in the 2000s. That's kind of a traumatizing thing, living in Texas. Who wants to live in Texas? No offense to Texas people. Yeah, this whole thing on the ship is pretty traumatizing. Being imprisoned, that's pretty traumatizing. Years later, she raised Rose to be a strong adult woman, helping her study with loving and caring to Rose for the beginning of elementary school, and Chris would be her mentor in controlling her newfound abilities. But by the year 2037, Rose is soon put under the custody of Chris and the Hound Wolf Squad, with Rose only seldom seeing her mother. She lost her husband, did not want to be in her daughter's life at a certain point. Do I put her at the same level as her daughter? I feel like, ooh. Because she definitely needs some fucking therapy for everything she's been through. Especially after not taking care of your daughter, but, losing your husband, yeah, that's pretty big. Basically, I feel like she just didn't see herself fit to take care of Rose. So I'm debating if I want to put her on the same trauma scale as Rose, or just a bit lower. Definitely at the high end of where Chris is for needing therapy. Her and Chris need to go to couples therapy as well at this point. She didn't go on the same journey as Rose during her game, so I'm gonna put her slightly below. Something tells me they put me in a mental hospital. You know, I wouldn't doubt it. So that's why I want to say, you know, I'll leave her at the same, just slightly under her daughter for trauma, but at the same level of needing therapy as Chris. Actually, I mean, would you consider that then more therapy than Chris? If, like, the assumption is that she's in a mental institution? Or a mental hospital? Also the fact that she definitely had to know that Ethan couldn't tell it wasn't her with him for months. Yeah. Yeah. Ethan had no questions about that. Alright, I'm gonna have to, like, bump Chris down a little bit then. And I'm making it look like Ethan and Chris are about to kiss. I'm gonna give Mia the most needing therapy award here because of how badly she spirals. So, Leon needs the least amount of therapy, even though he's towards the top of the most traumatic. Piers is, you know what, I'm gonna put him a little bit under Ada, so that there is somewhat the least amount of trauma. Piers has the least amount of trauma. Ada definitely needs therapy, but not as traumatic. Mia needs therapy. Chris is the most traumatized. I would say this is pretty fair. Out of the games that I have played, as we can tell here, most Resident Evil characters are in fact traumatized. The common correlation between a lot of Resident Evil characters is no family, military trauma, but if you get yourself into humor in a situationship, you'll be alright.